Hello dear viewer! In the previous video, I showed how to build a reliable and affordable foundation for a small frame house or utility building. Today, I'll show how to assemble the walls with exterior sheathing and install the roof framing system. Let me remind you that I designed and built this house in compliance with all applicable building codes and regulations, with the main one being SP 31-105-2002. You also asked me to develop full project documentation for this building, including a detailed cost estimate, structural solutions, and step-by-step assembly instructions. I took all your requests into account and will also explain in this video how to obtain the project and build the same house yourself. Assembly of the frame walls starts with the bottom and top plates. I'll begin by assembling the short side walls. For this, I select two boards with as few knots as possible and as straight as possible. First, I square the ends, then cut two pieces for each wall. For the bottom and top plates, I square the ends first, then cut two pieces for each wall, one for the bottom plate and one for the top plate, each 3 meters long. Next, I place the bottom and top plates next to each other and mark the stud locations according to the project plan. Now about lifting the large, long side wall. I already lifted it slightly to make it easier to grab. On this side, I prepared temporary diagonal braces as supports, fixing them with screws, one here and one in the stud. When I lift the wall, I'll secure it immediately, and then I'll level it. After assembling all the walls, they need to be leveled, so everything looks like this. On the other side, we check the level the same way. We check all four corners. After that, we nail each wall section to the platform with one nail per bay, so that all walls are secured to the platform. The walls are temporarily fastened to each other with structural screws, and then they can also be nailed together every 60 centimeters. Next, I move on to making the rafters. I made this template with a bird's mouth cut, so it sits evenly on the walls. I also trimmed the other side slightly. Using this template, I'll make all the rafters and then install them. I installed the first rafter. It rests perfectly here and on the other side as well. I'll fasten it to the studs using three 90mm nails. The next step is installing the roof battens, which will later support the roof sheathing. At this point, I've installed almost all the battens. I use 50mm ring shank nails with the nail gun. I start installing the Quick Deck professional panels on the long side, starting from the bottom with the tongue facing up so that if water gets on the wall, it won't flow into the groove. To secure the first panel, I made 2 temporary stops from scraps and fixed them with screws from below. Then I can proceed with installation. I'll fasten the panels using 50mm ring shank nails. I reduced the driving force because Quick Deck is softer than wood, so the nail heads don't sink too deep. All panel joints must be glued with PVA-D3 adhesive. In my case, I found an old container, and the nozzle makes it very convenient to apply the glue. However, it's worth noting that PVA is not suitable for freezing temperatures. Today, it's about plus 1.5 to plus 2 degrees Celsius, so PVA is fine. If the temperature is lower, you need a different adhesive. I have one ready that allows installation down to minus 20 degrees Celsius. If glue squeezes out, it's best to wipe it off immediately with a disposable cloth. Another major advantage of Quick Deck is the almost complete absence of waste. Here, a small piece remains on this side. We cut it off and use the remaining part to start the next row. There's no requirement for panel joints to land exactly on a stud. With OSB, there would be a lot of waste, which significantly affects the total material cost. I set the saw cutting depth slightly deeper than the thickness of the Quick Deck panel and used 2 spaces to cut the panels. Now I'm installing the last piece that I just cut. And there you go, 2 rows are done. Everything happens very quickly. You could say that 1/3 of the wall is already sheathed. I'll continue sheathing further. Using the same method, I finished sheathing the back wall. Everything goes very fast, like assembling a construction set. Greetings to everyone who says you can build without a project. The top row doesn't require trimming at all. This saves time and materials if everything is calculated and designed in advance. This is how the wall looks from the inside. Now I'm starting to sheath the short side walls. While the weather allowed, I finished the roof, but that will be a separate video. For now, I'm finishing the remaining 2 sections. I start from the bottom with a full sheet and cut out the doorway opening. And now the frame sheathing is complete on both sides. The next stage is the roof. For now, it's covered with a tarp. This is how it looks at the moment. And from this side, it looks like this.